مرحبا، أهلا وسهلا فيكم. إن شاء الله تكونوا سامعيننا منيح. نحن رح ننتظر دقيقة بس قبل ما نبلش، لبين ما يكون الكل صار موجود. بهيدا الوقت بنحب نسمع منكم بالتشات. انتوا من أي مؤسسة، من أي بلد؟ تمارا معنا من العراق، جميل من اليمن، هدى من الأردن، أنا من تونس كمان، من المغرب، من البحرين، من فلسطين. يعني عنا كل الدول العربية موجودة اليوم. تونس، مرحبا، أهلا وسهلا فيكم جميعا. بدي بس خبركم إنه إذا بدكم تسمعوا الويبينار باللغة العربية، بدكم تضغطوا على الكرة الأرضية تحت وتختاروا اللغة العربية لتقدروا تسمعوا باللغة العربية. معنا اليوم وإعلام، هاي لارا من الإمارات، أميرة من ليبيا، منتصر من العراق. أهلا وسهلا فيكم جميعا. طيب، خلينا نبلش. مرحبا وأهلا وسهلا فيكم بالويبينار الرابع من مشروع دليل للشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات AFCN من أريج بالعام 2023، بعنوان كيف تبني مستقبلك الوظيفي في مهنة تدقيق المعلومات. هذا المشروع هو بدعم من الاتحاد الأوروبي، مشروع دليل، وهو بالتعاون مع مؤسستي سايرن في لبنان وجوسا في الأردن. أنا سجن مرتضى، أنا صحفية استقصائية ومدققة معلومات، وأنا مديرة الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات AFCN من أريج، ويسعدني كثير أن أدير هذا الويبينار اليوم. مهنة تدقيق المعلومات هي مهنة حديثة نسبيا، وبرزت في الآونة الأخيرة كمهنة مستقلة بشكل أكبر في العالم العربي، خاصة بعد الوباء المعلوماتي اللي تعرضنا له عقب جائحة كوفيد 19. أن تكون مدقق للمعلومات اليوم لا يعني أبدا أن تمتلك القدرة فقط على تدقيق التصريحات التي يطلقها السياسيون أو المعلومات الخاطئة البسيطة التي تنتشر على مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي، بل يحتاج مدققو ومدققات المعلومات اليوم إلى أن يتعلموا العديد من المهارات الأساسية والمتنوعة في ظل الانتشار السريع للمعلومات المضللة والخاطئة، هيمنة صحافة المواطن، ووجود مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي مختلفة المحتوى والوسائط، بالإضافة إلى أدوات الذكاء الاصطناعي التي تولد الصور ومقاطع الفيديو الزائفة. نحن نحتاج اليوم إلى اكتساب مهارات أكبر مع التهديدات التي قد يشكلها الذكاء الاصطناعي. نحتاج إلى إنتاج تحقيقات استقصائية تكشف تضليلا حقيقيا، نحتاج إلى فضح مصادر وجهات التضليل، ونحتاج إلى تعاون أكبر وجهود أعمق، وحتى إلى فهم الجمهور بشكل أوسع. فما هي أهم هذه المهارات التي يجب أن يواكبها مدقق المعلومات؟ كيف يصل إلى الاحترافية؟ وما هي العناصر المطلوبة لبناء مؤسسة تدقيق معلومات قوية وناجحة؟ هذا ما سنجيب عليه مع ضيفنا فيردي أوزسوي، نائب مديرة الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات IFCN، وصاحب الخبرة الطويلة في مجال تدقيق المعلومات ودعم مؤسسات تدقيق المعلومات حول العالم. أهلا وسهلا بك فيردي. وقبل أن أعطيك الكلمة، أرغب أن أعبر ومجتمع الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات AFCN عن كامل تعاطفنا وتضامننا معك في المأساة والاعتداء المستنكر الذي تعرضت له زوجتك خلال هذا العام. ويسعدنا استضافتك معنا بعد أشهر صعبة مررت بها، نتمنى لها الشفاء العاجل ولك كل الخير. تفضل فيردي، الكلمة لك.
Thank you for that warm welcome, Saja. I really appreciate your kind words to our family and our situation we're in. But today we're going to be here talking about fact-checking, and I miss this community, and I'm here to explain about a journey that I've been through through this journey of fact-checking worlds. It's been about 10 years, and I might not have all the answers for you today, but I do have an experience and a journey that I could share and bring some points together for you to see and explore as we move forward. I'm excited to be here. This is not the first time we've gathered with Arij. This has become a series at this point, and it's always pleasurable to be here and to be able to help grow communities of fact-checking operations around the world.
نحن سعداء كثير انه تكون معنا اليوم فيردي، ونتطلع الى جلسه تمتد ساعتين، جلسه مشوقه فيها الكثير من المعلومات. وطبعا انتم مرحبا انكم تطرحوا كل الاسئله اللي عندكم اياها بالكيو اند اي، ورح انقلها لفيردي بالوقت المناسب. فيردي ممكن نبلش، تفضل.
Sure. Let me first share my screen. Give me a quick moment. Well, today, I want to, I'm just trying to set up my screen so I have you guys on the left, and let me put this on full screen slide so you don't see the whole screen. Apologies for this. Well, today, I'm going to, as I said, take you on a little journey of how I've come into the fact-checking world. It's when Saja approached me and asked these questions, how do you become a fact checker and how do you build a powerful fact-checking organization? I was like, oh, those are a lot of big questions and a lot of answers that we have for. But answers come from experiences. So today I want to kind of give you a snippet of why fact-checking is important and why do we do it. How and what tools do we need to become a good fact checker or have the capabilities to be able to come into this community, as well as a guiding way for organizations to see what they might need along while they're on this path of establishing their own operations in their own countries. So let's start. If I can change my screen for a moment. There we go. Importance of accurate information in fact-checking. Information is key in our day and age. With the rapid dissemination of information through our digital services, our spaces are clouded with so many information that could be false, that could be true, that could be misleading, that could be a satire. We need to kind of defend ourselves against this. This atmosphere erodes trust. It impacts democracies. We saw it during the COVID-19 era with health misinformations. And we see a lot of great ways where a lot of organizations are preparing ways to educate the future with media literacy programs. Some of the fact checks and the work that we do hold up accountability for public figures. So the work we do is very important in the space that we're involved at this moment. Building a career as a fact checker. Well, before I get into all of those little things, I'm going to tell you a little about myself. How did I get into the world of fact checking? And how I ended up where I am today. I guess we never know where life is going to take us, where we're going to come off and come on. But my journey in the fact-checking world started around 2013 when we first came together with a group of friends. Like, hey, we need to do something. There's a lot of information in our social media spaces. in the rhetoric within the public spaces of politicians. What do? We didn't come up with an answer. We started looking for an answer. What are other people around the world are doing to fight against misinformation? We came across a lot of organizations. Then it was very, very small. The community was extremely, a group of, you could put everyone in the email chain without it being a group on Google Groups. It was that simple. But today, it's an immense community. As I started to establish our organizations, our fact-checking operations, we needed to learn a lot of things. How do you set up a nonprofit organization is the route we went. A lot of organizations might have their own way of avenue of pursuing to establish their fact-checking operations. It could be individuals doing their own thing on their own social media, creating their own brand. This is an option. It could be a group of individuals coming together, forming a LLC or a nonprofit organization to be able to do fact-checking in a more operational sense. Our route was to form a nonprofit organization in order to develop more projects and infrastructures that would support the main idea, which was fighting against disinformation. And fact-checking was one of the arms of the work that we were doing. Like I said, we have all our own ways of getting there. We started our fact-checking operations in Turkey, and it's not too far away from where you are. We're all in the same region. We share the same issues. We share the same problems. We share the same kismet, sort of to see. But at the end, this community that we became a part of as a fact-checking organization helped us along the way. Some things that I saw that were important for us while we were establishing these thoughts, these mechanisms for our organizations to function, it was extremely new for us, for a bunch of kids coming out of grad school trying to figure out the world. So it was new. So we needed to figure out a few things along the way. There's a saying in Turkish, we'll figure it out as we're on the trail going back to the countryside. So education is very important. You might, if you're interested in information, you might have a journalism background, a communications background. You could be a scientist, a doctor. There's several examples of this in our community. It's just a peak of curiosity, I guess, which will in turn bring strong research skills, critical thinking, which also should be enhanced with your writing and your communication abilities, ethics, ethical standards. The work we do, we always are in a situation where we need to be able to put everything aside and look at the facts and be able to report as is. We need to build our digital literacy. We have to find ways of understanding and decoding some of the misinformation. So there's a lot of tools online that you could train on, get skilled on to add to your arsenal against disinformation. Your knowledge on current affairs is absolutely important. Your knowledge within your country and within outside of your region and in the world affects your misinformation in your country. We saw this with the COVID-19 global pandemic. One piece of misinformation is the same piece of misinformation in a different part of the country, and a different part of the world. So what is happening around the world is now, in a sense, a global misinformation that can be transplanted and transformed into other ways in other regions around the world. So we need to be up to date on what's going on. And my favorite, networking. building connections with journalists, experts, regional partners. When we started on this road, we were a little, little grad kids coming out, trying to figure out the world, like I said. How do we approach a fact-checking organization? Hey, we want to do the same thing that you're doing in our country, right? Simply just ask. There's a lot of people in this community that are there to help you. And that brought us to grow our community, to strengthen the work that we do. So I'm gonna continue on to how to create a powerful fact-checking organization. These are some things that I thought that are really important to establish some roots within your organizations, to be able to think creatively, to be able to find ways and attack things in different aspects. You should have a strong mission and values of your organization. Your team composition should be diverse. Diverse because you need to be able to look at it in different ways. I don't mean only researchers have a different perspective on a different outlook of one of the issues that you are covering. Business, scientists, doctors, journalists are not the only fact checkers. We are all fact checkers in that sense. So let's try to build a team that's diverse, is what I found that was really helpful while we were doing our fact-checking operations. Now, don't take this ironclad. Everyone has their own journey, and every country is different from every country, so your experience is going to be totally different. But these are some things that I thought that are universal. Training and development. Your teams need to be up to date of the certain skills and new tools that are out there. This enhances the overall productivity of the organization, and it creates new ways of thinking how to engage with tackling misinformation. Having a strong fact-checking methodology is very important. So this way, people can understand how you do the work and how you are able to convey that piece of information. Technology tools. Some of us are writers, some of us are great individuals that has a social media presence, but some of us have to develop ways of collaborating, thinking of it from a marketing perspective, thinking of it of a data perspective. So there's a lot of ways that we need to be able to develop that team as we move forward. Developing partnerships, collaborations, reach out to your local fact-checking organizations. They'll be happy to hear from you. As reach out to your regional networks, they'll be happy to hear from you. There's a lot of organizations here that have the tools to help you along the way, especially on some of those things that I'm listing right now. Public engagement, engage your audiences, develop new ways of interacting with them. Just don't fact check something. Give them something to learn about, develop explainer factual sheets. There's a lot of ways you can interact with people through social media in a very healthy way. Transparency, make sure you are transparent in the work that you do. And this as a policy for your organization. Funding and sustainability is the sore point of all our organizations. It is never easy to fund any type of research, any type of thing that is being written, is what I found in my lifetime. But there's a lot of organizations out there. There's a lot of new ways where organizations are experimenting and diversifying their revenue streams by engaging with their audiences in new ways. So this aspect, as a community, we're still trying to find ways to establish ways that we could communicate funding and sustainability issues a little bit more stronger as we move forward. Impact measurement. Measure the impact you are doing. Sometimes it's good to hear a politician say, hey, I was wrong. And that's one of those moments that we usually feel the impact But you know, your impact is more than that. You could see this through the comments. You could see this through how much your information is being shared. Bask in those moments and also understand what works. Look at them, right? You could start developing strategies as you are reporting and measuring all of these aspects of the work that you do. So these are some things and ways that I thought would make a fact-checking career and build a powerful fact-checking organization. At this point, I'm going to briefly pause, and then I want to explain how I became a part of an organization that helps fact-checking organizations around the world do exactly what I've just explained in multifaceted aspects. So we could use this moment as a moment to take a sip of water, ask a few questions. Saja, back to you.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي. صراحة أنا بدي أسألك سؤال قبل ما ناخذ أسئلة الحاضرين. أنت حكيت عن موضوع السستينابيليتي، وهون بس حابة أسأل إنه للمبادرات اللي ما عندها قدرة إنه يكون عندها تمويل، على الأقل تمويل ثابت، ولكن هي بتشتغل بالفاكت تشيكينج وهي ناشطة وهي عندها منهجية واضحة وعم بتحاول تتطور قدر المستطاع، شو ممكن تنصحهم ليقدروا عن جد يستمروا بشغلهم، ليقدروا ينجحوا بشغلهم رغم انه هن ما عم بيشتغلوا بشكل سيستماتيك ومنظمين ومؤسسة ومسجلين رسميا وغيره؟
I mean, there's two ways to answer this question, I would guess. In order for the IFCN or the International Fact-Checking Network to be able to, at this point, with its signatories, code of principles, criteria, says that, you know, organizations need to be registered in order to be a part of this network. That is only one aspect of that. That is more of an aspect where organizations are going through a process of vetting to become a part of this community. And after becoming a verified signatory, they're able to utilize that badge to apply to grants, to form partnerships with social media platforms, to be able to create new partnerships in their regions, because people have a sense of trust when they see that IFCN badge. This trust comes from not only from the process that we have built throughout the years, but through the community we have nourished in the last decade, with knowledge experts, with good practices, by convening together every year under every circumstances with our global fact events. And we're able to have that sort of relationship in other ways as well. Organizations that are not signatories, we do have relationships with them. They are a part of our community. They are a part of the discussions. As long as we are in communication with them, they could they could be up to date of the work that we do and grant opportunities that we might be able to offer to them in certain periods of the year, even if they are not an IFCN signatory. A registered organization is still a must because there's still money interaction over there. But you don't need to be an IFCN verified signatory to be able to apply to some of these grant programs that we have that I will explain in the later half of this slideshow. But at the moment, it's a very discouraging question, Saja. It's you know, I understand it's a very sore point to the region, to the community, because it is not easy to register your organizations within your countries. I totally understand that, because of the political situations, because of restrictions on ways that you could form organizations. There are ways that you can still establish structural registered organizations. this is for you to find out. But there are organizations that do work outside of their countries that have operations in different ways that they support their operations at their pores. This engagement is very important for us because we want to be up to date with organizations in these areas of the world, because they are a part of our community. The misinformation that we have is the misinformation everywhere. It is like a plague across the world. But at the end of the day, I do not want to discourage organizations and not say don't approach the IFCN or any other regional fact-checking organization or any other type of organization that is out there to support ways that you could find to establish maybe that fact-checking organization. When we started our own fact-checking organization, we did not know how to even establish a registered nonprofit organization in Turkey. But we had a friend who had a nonprofit organization, and we talked to him. He helped us out. We need to be able to, these mechanisms are there in order for us to guide organizations. And I'm going to say a lot about that in a moment. And it always does not have to mean that you are an IFCN verified signatory. Saja and I and various other regional organizations have been in contact, even this year at the Global Fact event at South Korea. We had a panel, which I was hoping to lead, but one day we will have that panel again, and I will be there to ask the tougher questions to you, Saja. But that shows our commitment as the International Fact-Checking Network to be able to establish strong fact-checking operations, strong individuals who are advocates of factual information. There are multiple ways you can feed this ecosystem. There's a lot of great researchers around the world that have developed a lot of relationships with a lot of organizations. There's other ways of approaching misinformation. At Global Fact 9 in Oslo, we had Birds Are Not Real, Adam, who started that movement. It was a satire to show how misinformation can affect everyone, a satire. So there's different ways that we can bring awareness, bring factual information to a public-facing space. So it just needs to be able to be nourished. And this is why the International Fact-Checking Network is here. This is why Saja is here. This is why the Europeans with the EFCSN, Latam Czechia in Latin America, Africa Facts in Africa, the African Fact-Checking Network, and the Asian organizations are now coming together to establish their own network. And of course, with Arish leading the Arab Fact-Checking Network and bringing you guys together today. So there's a lot of ways we're able to establish this relationship. Long answer, short answer, long, short answer, short, however you want to put it.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي على الإجابة. صار عندنا كتير أسئلة بالكيو اند اي، فرح أسأل أهم سؤالين. هناك سؤال عن إنه هل تدعمون اللغة العربية في الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات؟ هلا بس سريعا، الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات IFCN تعمل باللغة الإنجليزية بشكل أساسي، ولكن الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات AFCN تعمل باللغة العربية بشكل أساسي، ولديها الكثير من المصادر المختلفة باللغة العربية، وكثير من تدريباتها تتم باللغة العربية وإنتاج كمان باللغة العربية. ففردي، هل لديك إجابة على السؤال إن كنتم تدعمون العمل باللغة العربية؟
I'm here. That's my answer. I am here to support all organizations. I have been doing this for several years. Yes. I'm getting there, if you could give me a moment. To give you the answer, do we support Arabic language fact-checking? Of course, we support any language fact-checking. Our main communications with the world is in English. This does not mean we don't support a certain language over another language. We work in 85 different countries with multiple hundreds of different languages. Yes, our application system, our vetting process is in English. For that reason, it is to have a transparency with a global network. Your application is vetted by assessors and experts of your region that understand the language and the infrastructures and the socio dynamics and the political history of the country while these assessments are happening. These assessments are in English for us to be transparent in our work, which is one of the core principles that we have at the IFCN. We are always here. Doesn't matter the language, where it is in the world. I think the question was more in terms of how do we have training aspects, right? We do from time to time have these sorts of gatherings where we might be speaking in another language, but there are individuals who are helping us get that thought and ideas across. This is one way of doing it. We have come to some events in regions around the world to be able to train organizations in fact-checking, in the tools of fact-checking. We do have all of these operations across all our network and beyond our network as well.
شكرا فيردي. طبعا IFCN الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات هي من أكبر داعمين ل AFCN الشبكة العربية لتدقيق المعلومات، ونحن بنسعى لدعم كل مؤسسات ومبادرات تدقيق المعلومات في العالم باللغة العربية. أيضا المنهجية المؤسسات ولا لا ممكن كل مؤسسة يكون عندها منهجية خاصة لها بتشتغل على أساسها في تدقيق المعلومات؟
The question is if each organization has its own methodology.
Yes, if all organizations, all fact-checking organizations have their own, the same methodology, or each organization can have its own methodology.
Each organization, okay, how do I answer this question? Well, I'm looking at a vantage point where I have dealt with over 150 organizations becoming a part of the International Fact-Checking Network. And as I always say, when I am at these types of webinars or training a new colleague of mine, organizations might, every country is different. Every experience is different. The way you approach your methodology can be different from the way certain other organizations can approach it. But in the end of the day, most of the methodologies do have a sound way of following each other. They do have elements. Some organizations like to add a little bit more into what they're trying to convey. So they add different aspects into their methodology to make a stronger argument while they are presenting the factual information. Some organizations have different ways of presenting a correct information or a false information. Some have rating systems. Some explain the situation to you. So it all depends on the approach you want to take as an organization. Like I said in the beginning, when you create these missions and values, what are you trying to get across? What are you trying to give to your audiences? What is the message you want to establish with them? So those methodologies develop and expand over time. There is no set methodology, but there is a standard, I would say, in a sense, where we expect organizations to have a methodology that's front on their website. So anyone could be able to go on their website and, okay, that they took these steps. Let me see if I could come to the same conclusion the way he did that fact check, and if I get the same conclusion. Sometimes it happens, we make mistakes. Then we have corrections policies within our methodologies just to reach out back to those people who have reached out to us to establish a clear way of how, if there is a corrections that needs to be made, and how that's going to be reassembled on its website. So these methodologies do change from organization to organization, from country to country. But for the IFC and for our community, this is one aspect that we are expecting from our organizations, because fact-checking means being transparent, right? We're bringing information forward in a sense, right? So we have to be transparent in the work we do, in how we convey that message as well. Saja, can we continue on with the PowerPoint for a little bit? Because there's a lot of things there that could also support what some of those questions. And then we could do another break, like in 10 minutes for another set of questions. Because I do want to get through the slide.
طبعا يمكن لأي أحد أن يرسل أسئلته في الQ&A وسنجيب عنها لاحقا. تفضل فيردي.
Well, this is a photo of where I started the second time I went to a Global Fact. My first Global Fact was in London, and the community grew more at Global Factory. This is Argentina. This is still a group of people in one room. This community, as you can see maybe from the screen, I'm down right here at the far right or left on your screen, but there's a lot of faces there that are still a part of this community pushing the fight against misinformation forward. And the community continues to grow as we go through the years, bringing new organizations from across 6 continents to a location every year to celebrate the work that we do, to discuss the challenges that we face through the years, and the challenges that we're going to be facing in the future, showing new tools and initiatives that are working to grow our communities. This year at Global Fact 10, there were several breakout sessions that promoted how fact-checking organizations should be, can establish some of the learned practices within their own operations. Global Fact 6 went to Cape Town in South Africa. And then we had a global pandemic. We were virtual. I forgot to put the virtual photos here, but the global pandemic and COVID-19 is still a blur for all of us, but we did all live it. And Global Fact 9 was in Oslo in Norway, and that community had 600 and there were 600 people, 500 people at that event, topping the most attended Global Fact event this community had. This year, we went to South Korea. This is a room with over 550 people 506 people who attended the session, the numbers that I'm getting from my team, with 59 sessions, 37 speakers, attendees from 80 different countries representing 6 continents. All of this, some of the aspects of Global Fact 10 will be moved to our YouTube channel. You'll be able to also see some of those discussions that we've had of how we're able to support some of the organizations around the world. This is some of the clippings that I put together from Global Fact 10. This year we had a mascot, Checkers. Checkers guided us through our virtual experiences as well as our in-person experience in the Global Fact events. There was a lot of discussion on the stage and off the stage in karaoke rooms. It's a moment where we embrace each other. It's a moment where we come together to just say, hey, it's good to see you, and what are you up to? Let me know. You get to create new connections, develop lasting friendships, networks, and ways that you will see how you will benefit your organization as you move forward. Now, I'm going to stop here and give a little brief history of the International Fact-Checking Network at the Poynter Institute. The International Fact-Checking Network is dedicated to bring fact-checkers around the world together. It was launched in 2015 after several of meetings of global fact-checkers coming together in London, twice in London, and launching with the Global Fact in Argentina. It was growing then, it is continuing to grow. The fact-checking community started with, this network started with 35 organizations. Today, it's over 159 organizations. Before getting into the work that we're going to, the work that we do and how we aid some of the operations, do we have any questions until this point?
اوكي. هناك سؤال فيردي عن كيف يمكن تدقيق المعلومات في ظل مشكلة هون طبعا بنواجهها كمان بشكل كبير بالعالم العربي. احنا ما عندنا حرية الوصول او حق الوصول الى المعلومات، غير متوفر في الكثير من الدول العربية، وحتى في الدول اللي توفر فيها هذا الحق فهو غير مطبق، القانون غير مطبق. فكيف يمكن فعلا أن ندقق المعلومات وأن نتأكد من صحة كل ما يقوله إن كان السياسيون، وسائل الإعلام وغيره، إن لم يكن هناك حرية في تداول هذه المعلومات؟
This is a sore point for all of us. I'm trying to come to answer this question from a vantage point where my experiences in fact-checking, your experiences in fact-checking might be totally different, but very similar in many ways. Fact-checking in Turkey is not also easy. Yes, we have probably more access to information than most of the regions that you are living in. But nevertheless, it was still difficult to verify issues that were at the core. What do we do then? We start to go after information that has precedence, that has weight behind it. For example, going to organizations that are working with that specific issue is one way we started to tackle some of the prison issues that were happening in Turkey. There's other ways that you can approach things by going to nonprofit organizations who work in climate change. Going to the experts is a way to be able to get that information. Now, our information might not be credible within our countries, or our national statistics might not be up to date. But you can bring two pieces of information together as well. There's a lot of international statistics out there. There's a lot of tools that you can use to support the information, the factual information that you're trying to present. There's a lot of research in hundreds of thousands of institutions around the world that might not be exactly focusing on certain aspects of the work that you do, but definitely touching upon it and creating a narrative to support the information is some ways that we started to look at when we didn't have this information. But the most important thing, while you are gathering this information, that is accessible information for your readers to be able to see that source as well. This has to be online information, or you can upload this. This is up to you and how you are running your fact-checking operations and your methodology. This all comes back to your values and missions, how you establish those groundworks. But finding the sources is a difficult sore point. If you're looking at statistics, compare statistics, the OECD statistics, along with your country statistics, to find the middle ground and see which is a more weighted information. Totally understand that. It's just finding creative ways to attack the issue is what we have always strived to do, because gathering information means being creative. Arish runs this huge investigative journalism, infrastructure that helps amazing organizations around the world unearth a lot of information that saves a lot of people and helps a lot of people. So there is resources out there. It's just how creative can you get those resources? How much time are you kind of willing to spend to get those resources? That is my long answer for that very difficult question. I'll take one more, and then I'm going to explain about a few things about how we help organizations.
شكرا جزيلا فردي. السؤال الأخير هو يعني كثير ناس عم يسألوا كيف منبلش مشوارنا بتدقيق المعلومات، كيف منبلش نتعلم تدقيق المعلومات إن كان المنهجية أو الأدوات. هلأ الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات والشبكة العربية لتدقيق المعلومات عندهم العديد من المصادر متوفرة أونلاين والمجانية ككورسز، أدلة تعليمية وجايد لاينز وغيرها. زملائنا من فريق أريج والشبكة العربية لتدقيق المعلومات عم بيبعتوها بالشات، ففيكم منا تبلشوا. عندنا كثير كورسات متوفرة أونلاين ممكن تبدأوا منها كنتوا تتعلموا مهارات تدقيق المعلومات. ولكن فردي، هل عندك نصيحة للأشخاص الجدد على المهنة أو اللي بدهم يبلشوا يتعلموا تدقيق المعلومات كيف يبلشوا؟
For the last 3 years, I've been a part of leading and guiding the international fact-checking network's code of principles application process. And through this, I've heard many stories of ways organizations come together, how people come together. But the most important thing is how people come together. I think my journey started with a group of friends that I trusted, that we trusted each other, and we wanted to do something. Don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. You need help. You always need help, and creating that team is very important. My journey started with bringing a few friends for a picnic to see who was brave enough to, hop on this train and start fact-checking in Turkey. And a few of them said, okay, let's do it. And then we started, and the organization is still continuing. The team is much bigger than I left it in the past. One of our first employees is now running the whole entire nonprofit organization. So I'm very proud of what we built over the years. And I'm very proud that we're able to guide some of these organizations to be helping our spaces of information. There is no exact way of starting this. It's just, just taking a step forward, I guess, or being at the right place at the right time in a sort of speaking way. But while you start, just make, like I said, there's a lot of information, and as Saja was saying, a lot of that is being dropped into the chat at the moment. And there's a lot of other organizations around the world that do support fact-checking operations. It's just a matter of time and going after those resources.
شكرا فيردي. فيك تكمل البرزنتيشن وسنعود لاحقا لآخذ بعض الأسئلة الإضافية.
Sure. So how does the IFCN, the International Fact-Checking Network, support the fact-checking community? One of the programs that we have is, I'm starting with safety because it is a very important issue for a lot of the organizations within your regions, within our regions. Your region is my region. Our organizations need support and communications, how to get through some of these crisis moments. There's a lot of issues. Fact checkers are being attacked, and some of the organizations are a lot of scrutiny. How do we handle this pressure? Because all of these organizations are actually very small organizations with a lot of good spirit and good intentions, trying to do a lot of good work. So how do we support them? We establish a communication supporting handbook, a playbook, where it consults organizations on harassments and how to manage crises during moments of communications. So this resource is available to our organizations within our network, as well as the Legal Defense Fund. The Legal Defense Fund is a fund that we have established to support fact checkers around the world who are under legal issues. We have supported over, I don't want to be quoted on this at the moment, but about 5 to 6 organizations who are facing various legal issues in various different parts of the world. And this Legal Defense Fund is there and provided to our community. Grants. I was talking about the grants a few months ago, and I want to dive into it a little bit more and try to see how the IFCN could be a part of this search, where you're trying to find a way to be able to establish your organizations, or get your foot through the door. Maybe the IFCN works alongside with various partners to identify and launch innovative proposals that address a global threat to misinformation. These grants come in various ways. It could be to tackle certain issues like climate change, innovation initiatives where we develop new tools, spare the issues that the world is facing. We had a COVID-19 grant program where it helped organizations to ramp up their operations during that moment to fight against misinformation during the COVID-19 period. But these are a lot of opportunities that are there, not only for our verified signatories, but also for fact-checking operations. And of course, there are eligibility criteria for these grants to be able to be applied for and to be able to be a recipient of. One of these grants, and one of the biggest funding opportunity the IFCN has been able to present to its community, it's the Global Fact Check Fund. It is for verified signatories of the IFCN Code of Principles and affiliated organizations. That affiliated organizations is a very broad term, and I understand that. But it's organizations that are a part of our network. When I say a network, I mean our community. Arish is an organization that we work with. There's a lot of different organizations within the Middle East in the region who are working with fact-checking. Maharat, Fatabayano, Tech for Peace, Verify Syria, the Turkish fact checkers. There's a lot of organizations around the world that we are affiliated with. So these are ways to be able to find eligibility criteria. Through an open competition, the awards will strengthen the capabilities of the organizations. We are planning to distribute this fund in 3 groups of funding opportunities, which is build, grow, and engage. Our first build grant opportunity was geared only to the IFCM verified signatories at this moment, but in the future, it will be also open to other fact-checking operations who are not a part of the IFCN. And grow, which is now a grant opportunity that is open, is an opportunity for organizations that are not verified signatories to team up with verified signatories or be referred by a verified signatory to be able to apply for a grant. I will be sending Saja more information in terms of the details of how to apply for these grants, how to get the guidelines of these grants, but I will show you a few things right now very quickly. This fund is $12 million and will be spread into 3 years. It will have different levels of grant recipient numbers, 50,000, 25,000, 100,000, depending on the phase of program we are in. Grow, build, and engage have all different recipients amounts. The fund aims to provide grants approximately to over 100 organizations, over 35 countries in 49 languages this year alone. So we're hoping to ramp up some of these operations as we move forward into the last quarter and start our new year next year. At the moment, the only IFCN grant application that is available is the GROW program. There are many ways you can support your organization through this program. Staffing, professional development, expanding recruitment processes, formal mentoring, coaching. These are things that I was saying at the very beginning of our talk of how you're able to establish and grow stronger fact-checking organization operation. And these tools are being provided by the IFCN to this larger community through the Global Fact Check Fund. And I will stop there. I know there's a lot of questions about grants and opportunities. Training programs will be next, but let's take 2 questions and then move on to training opportunities. This way there's a little rhythm, and then we could have more time at the end for larger discussions and questions.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي. فيردي، تحدثت عن legal support, legal fund، وعندنا عدد من الأسئلة الخاصة بموضوع الحماية. كيف يمكن أن نحمي مدقق المعلومات خاصة بعد أن ما ينشر أي تدقيق معلومات بمواضيع خاصة حساسة، أحيانا قد تكون متعلقة ببعض السياسيين، أحيانا قد تكون خلال الانتخابات، أحيانا قد تكون حول مواضيع وأخبار جدا حساسة. كيف يمكن أن نضمن أن مدقق المعلومات يمتلك الحماية الكاملة عند القيام بعمله؟ طبعا الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات تحاول قدر المستطاع توفير الحماية القانونية للمؤسسات التي تنضوي تحتها. بنحاول أحيانا التوعية أيضا بالقوانين المختلفة في كل دولة وكل ما يتعلق بالجرائم الإلكترونية والقدح والذم وغيره، ولكن طبعا هذا الأمر غير كافي. فبرأيك كيف يمكن أن نضمن حماية مدققي المعلومات؟
Always starting with the tough questions. Guarantee is a very big word, a very loaded word, not guarantee anything. The work that we do poses threats because we're in searching for something that could prove someone otherwise, that could prove some piece of information to be false, right? So we're already putting ourselves in a place where things might happen. How do we protect ourselves? We can protect our writers by promoting good social media practices. We could help protect our organizations. Yes, I think everybody saw my low battery light up. Let me put that on. Sorry about that. So there's a lot of ways that we could promote healthy environments for our journalists. Harassment is a huge issue. Understanding the laws and regulations in your countries is very important as well. Track records in our region, in my country, for journalists especially, are not great. But we do have programs that we hope that we could, promote some of these best practices. I think in the future, we, alongside with our legal defense fund, with our communications this year, with our team getting stronger, with the new director Angie coming in, with me going into the deputy director role, we're going to be providing our community with new ways to be able to advocate for some of the work that we do. So this year, we're going to start looking into ways how we could work with organizations across the world to protect journalists and freedom of speech and the work that we do across our network. There's a lot of ways we could promote within our organizations. Our leaderships in our organizations need to understand that you are a person and there are issues that you are going to face, and they need to put some mechanisms in place. What could this be? There's many different ways that you could approach this. Your workload can be changed. The way you are approaching some of the topics you are approaching, diversifying some of the issues you are covering, showing, but most importantly, I think when we started fact checking, what helped us, and it's really tough to say this, but when you're more transparent of the work that you do, things are much easier because it's already out there. You're already telling the world, this is how you are doing the work. They're able to see how you're able to do the work. Yeah, does this help people? No, it doesn't, but it starts a conversation. I always believe that's the most important point. And engaging your audiences in some ways, as I said in the very beginning, is very important to establish a rapport, right? Let them know who this organization is, the type of work they're doing. Create that community around your own organization as well. These are some ways to be able to, strengthen not only your organizations within, but also develop a community of people around your organization to support the work that you do. Whew. Okay.
ممكن إذا بدك فردي ناخد بريك لمدة 5 دقائق قبل ما نكمل، وبهالوقت ممكن نشارك بالشات مع
the right time.
تمام، خلينا ناخد استراحة 5 دقايق، وبهذا الوقت زملائنا حيشاركوا تقييم الجلسة. إذا ممكن نملأ تقييم الجلسة بالفورم اللي حينبعث بالشات. يلا نعود بعد 5 دقائق. بنضلنا باللينك نفسه بس ناخد بريك.
Can everybody hear me? Shall I start or should we wait a few more moments?
يلا بنقدر إنه نحن نبلش. يعطيكم ألف عافية. شكرا فيردي، وشكرا طبعا للمترجمات معنا على وقتهم وجهدهم وتعبهم. طبعا نحن دائما بنشدد على ضرورة إنه مدققي المعلومات العرب أو الصحفيين العرب يكون عندهم اطلاع جيد جدا على اللغة الإنجليزية ويكون عندهم لغة إنجليزية جيدة، ولكن نحن بنحب نوفر كل تدريباتنا وجلساتنا باللغة العربية لنقدر ننشر المعرفة قدر المستطاع عند أكبر عدد ممكن من الناس. فردي رح بلش الجلسة استكمال الجلسة بسؤال محرج قليلا لا IFCN وهو عن هناك أحدهم يسأل وهو انونيمس يعني مش ذاكر اسمه، انه قدم الابلكيشن لIFCN من 6 أشهر وحتى الآن ما في أي شيء وصلوا أي جواب، فليش هيدا التأخير كله؟ تفضل.
I wouldn't call it an embarrassment. Let's start from there. I wouldn't call it an embarrassment because this is a community that is growing very, very rapidly. And to be able to sustain the operations that we're started off, and in the pandemic especially, and right after the pandemic, so the last 3 years, we have experienced an unexceptional growth. This growth exceeded our capabilities on our application systems, which we are working to amend. There are several ways that applications are being held up at the moment. But the most important aspect of that process is the readiness of the organizations when they are applying to become an IFCN verified signatory. In the future, when you do become, I'm making this answer not only an answer for the person who's asked the question, but a general answer of how are we trying to amend the process as we move forward. At the moment, we have 159 organizations with 159 renewal applications coming in every year, with at least 30 to 40 new organizations applying every year. Finding assessors is quite difficult within the region, within several parts of the world. It is not easy to establish communications or to find a right working relationship with an individual. Not that there isn't individuals out there that we could talk to, but it's also a relationship. This process that we have is an extremely vetted process. So we need to be able to have relationships before we have these assessments progress. The delays are mainly due to finding an assessor, as well as the amount of applications that we have. In the new year, we're going to be establishing new guidelines to move forward applications. There will be eligibility criteria before you apply. At the moment, it is an open rolling application system, which makes it very difficult for us to establish communications with these organizations. We'd like to know who you are before you apply. I'm just giving some general information regarding the situation. But we are doing our best in order to speed along those applications as fast as we can. Last week, we had hired a new team member that is going to be supporting our Code of Principles application process. The last 3 months, actually not the last 3 months, since March, I've been working very closely with our IT teams in building new infrastructures onto our website where these communications, they do get a little quicker. Yes, a lot of organizations are waiting to be verified signatories of the IFCN so they could venture out in the world. But at the same time, we need to be able to establish some groundwork in order to meet the needs. And we are doing that at the moment. Bear with us. It is something new in the sense, this work we do, these organizations want to be a part of this network for several reasons. But I'm hoping, and I'm always wishing, that the reason is because they want to be adhering to these principles and they want to establish it at their cores. These principles can be a part of your work as you become a verified signatory. This does not change that. Promoting your work and establishing those communications with other networks. Meanwhile, you are establishing, while you're going through this process, attending some of these webinars that we have, being up to date with the conversation that we are having within our own community. Sign up to the newsletters. Yes, it does take some time, but we are amending the process, and some of these issues will be resolved as these new systems and processes are within working parameters once we get it up running. But I am very excited for it because it's going to cut down the time. It's going to make the notification systems much more enhanced, where organizations are notified beforehand, even though it is their responsibility to reapply to become every year. Ownership of this has to go both ways, and we are doing our best in our end to be able to establish a better processing system in order to feed and to be able to promote the work that we do as a community. So we are working on it, and I understand 6 months is a long time, but during these 6 months, I've been on several calls with maybe not these past 6 months because my role changed a little bit with the interim director planning Global Fact, the Global Fact Check Fund, but Deirdre and I, through the last 3 years, have been able to sit down with organizations, guide them through each step of the way, staying on calls for hours and hours, trying to figure out how it is better to show your methodology, show some of these aspects. We were able to provide these type of services, but as we move forward, we're going to be providing more structural tools and resources for you to be able to understand the process a little better. New guidelines are going to be coming for applicants. We're going to have new guidelines for assessors, new guidelines for us to be able to establish our application process a little better. So all these resources are going to be established in the next few months is what I'm expecting. But there's a lot of work that we're doing. Just bear with us. This is all new for everyone in a sense, but our community is strong in the sense that every year that we are continuing to grow. I started off, when I started in my position, there was 64 organizations. Today, there's 159 verified signatories from over 80 countries. We do accommodate a lot of ways where we provide waivers for applications, but we could get into that a little later, and maybe a more closer environment for a webinar detailing the Code of Principles and its application process could be something me and Saja could work to bring to the community in the region. 6 months, I understand. I'm really, I am very apologetic for that. Soon, as I say, always, we will have some answers for you. We're working our best to be able to get all of those applications out as quickly as we can, because every month we're dealing with at least 65 applications, assessing and going back and forth. That is my long answer short, as humble as I can be.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي. هذا بياخذنا على سؤال آخر مهم جدا لما نحكي عن مستقبل الوظيفي لمدقق المعلومات أو الكارير الخاص فيه وكيف ممكن يستمر بتطويره. عملية التقييم اللي بتعملها IFCN للمؤسسات ولعمل المؤسسات ولمنهجية المؤسسات، قد ايه بتعلم وبتطور المؤسسة نفسها، وقد ايه بتساعد المؤسسة نفسها لتطور شغلها بالمستقبل؟
The question is how adhering to the Code of Principles affects an organization, or is it?
لا، مش ما بعني مدونة المبادئ. طبعا الالتزام بمدونة المبادئ هو شرط أساسي لكل مؤسسات تدقيق المعلومات، أنه تلتزم بمدونة مبادئ واضحة خاصة بالشفافية والتمويل وغيره. ولكن أنا أتحدث عن التقييم، يعني أنتم عم بتقيموا عملية الأسسمنت التي تحصل والأخذ والرد ما بينكم وبين مؤسسة تدقيق المعلومات خلال عملية التقييم، وأحيانا بيقوموا بتعديل بعض الأمور خلال التقييم أيضا. قد ايه بيساعد المؤسسة بالتطوير، وقد ايه بيساعد فريق عمل المؤسسة بالتطوير؟
Yes. So there are several aspects of the application that we must need to meet the criteria. A registered organization, must fact check for 6 months before applying. Certain eligibility criteria is already established, those guidelines. But there are other criteria that we do ask sometimes for clarification. Some work that can be done that can make it a little bit stronger, along with the assessor's experience and our guiding the assessor as well. There are moments where in the application where we have this back and forth. This communication does not happen with the assessor. We do not want to bring the assessor and the applicant together on any terms. Your communications is with the IFC and you're applying to the International Fact-Checking Network. The assessor is working for the International Fact-Checking Network to assess the application. So we are your line of communication between the assessor. In that regard, the assessor's recommendations is what we take a look at and make a judgment if the recommendations of the assessor is just, and if there is ways that the assessor has to recommend some recommendations to the organization in order to clear up the criteria. So we do communicate that back and forth. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into the code of principles in a moment. Let me continue with the training programs, and then we'll save a little bit more harder questions for later. I think I'm trying to give a break from the hard questions Saja is asking me. So I'm going to go back to the slides a little bit.
Okay, please go ahead, Ferdie.
The training programs. This is something that really excites us at the International Fact-Checking Network. We started off with a 20-country virtual fact-checking program in 2020 across the globe that has brought on new fact-checking organizations to be a part of our network. Today, we have an APAC program that is geared for the Southeast Asia and the Pacific Rim, where our fact-checking trainings are in 17 different languages that can be accessed through the IFCN website. Arabic is not one of those languages for that, but we do have trainings in Arabic because we did have trainings in Tunisia, in Jordan last year at the Arish conference. So we are in the region and do provide multiple trainings throughout the year. My colleague Lane will be traveling to Tunisia soon again to have trainings across the globe, virtually and in person. These trainings are available to our community, and that is another aspect of the work that we do. Our communications channels. When you become a part of the IFCN network, when you become a signatory of the IFCN Code of Principles, we introduce you into all of these new tools and programs that you can take advantage of. My favorite is the IFCN communications channels. When new organizations become a part of the community, one thing I always say is be up to date with the conversation, engage with the community, look at those email threads that is happening, answer them, talk with the individuals. If you have an idea, share it. If you're looking for information, resources, let these people know that you're looking for that. That's why we have our Slack workspace we're trying to ramp up some of our communications there, but organically within itself, the community is communicating in their own regional channels, in our general channels, when our organizations are able to reach out to this Slack space. This is only for the verified signatories. That verified signatories listserv is a listserv of compromise of all the signatories, heads of the organizations, and individuals within those organizations. This listserv is there for us to provide our immediate network of the work that we're doing, events that we're planning, webinars that we're planning, that is specifically geared for them. But also verified signatories use this channel to ask questions about media literacy programs. For example, one of our organizations was planning to develop a media literacy aspect into the work that they're doing. I said, reach out to the community. In a matter of hours, there was hundreds of pages of attachments that helped the organization start up their media literacy program. A few days ago, one of our organizations in Brazil reached out to the group and said, we're forming a map of all legislations around the world that are hindering fact checkers do the work they do, as well as curbing freedom of speech and freedom of press. So there's a lot of good work that you can be up to date through these communication channels. Yes, if you're not a part of the IFCN and not a part that are not an IFCN's verified signatory, we do have our community listserv that you can be a part of. I will let Sasha know how to register to this community listserv, and you can be up to date of what is happening around the community, as well as asking for help, even with the simplest fact-checking efforts that you need. Once an organization asked if a video, they were trying to verify a video, and another fact checker said, I could find this email thread and prove this, that video was taken on their street, and they were able to communicate and establish what actually happened from that video. So these listservs are there to help and engage the conversation that we're trying to build. It's not always helpful or as vibrant as it should be. It depends on topics and issues, I would say, when you're reaching out. The way you are reaching out to the community means a lot. Explain who you are, what are you trying to do when you are trying to look for this. Our Factually newsletter is a newsletter that is a global fact-checking newsletter that brings several elements of the work a lot of our organizations within our community do to your inbox every 2 weeks, so you could be up to date of some of those things that are happening around the world. This is what I would promote heavily to this community, because you will be able to not only see some trends going on, but opportunities that the IFCN will have to offer to its community. You can simply sign on to the newsletter by going through the ifcn.org website, through the Pointer website, and you'll be able to see a link to be able to register there. But this can be also be shared. Tool banks. This is specifically geared to our community members. In order to do the work we do, we need a toolbox, a tool bank, whatever you want to call it. We need tools to be able to unwrench or find some of the information that we need to find. So we have some tools at the International Fact Checking Network that provide organizations to be able to do the work that they do. These tools are being ramped up at the moment with new tools like Canva to support your design capabilities, Sumo to understand where trends are happening, Statista to find some of those sources that you're actually looking for that might not be in your country, right? You might need that information. So we have some statistics tools that we share with our community. We have the OECD library open to our community members. So there's a lot of tools that we support our organization with once they become verified signatories. Working groups, kind of like what we were talking about before, harassment issues, the safety of fact checkers, right? The IFCN has developed multiple working groups to tackle certain issues. The IFCN Working Harassment Group was formed that started the Crisis Management Handbook. And these discussions are always being updated to see how we can support our community as a large. So we have working groups and committees to help foster some of the good practices in our community. The YouTube discussions. Last year, the International Fact-Checking Network promoted a letter by its verified signatories to YouTube saying, hey, there's a serious issue on your platform, and we're here to try to help you on, navigate some of those issues that you're facing against misinformation on your platform. These discussions are continuing as we move forward into the last quarter and into the new year. We will have more updates with that as we move forward. I guess this is the main question of what I'm hearing of today: how to become a part of the International Fact-Checking Network and a signatory to the IFCN Code of Principles. Before I get in there, is there any questions?
صراحة في كتير أسئلة فردي، والبعض منها أنا عم جاوب عليها يعني لأنه بعرف إجابتها، فعم جاوب عليها بالشات لسهل عليك العملية شوي. ولكن هناك أسئلة عن الذكاء الاصطناعي، وأظن ممكن نتحدث عن هالموضوع بعد ما نخلص من هذا الجزء من البرزنتيشن اللي لك. خلينا نخلص من هذا الجزء وبعدين نحكي عن الذكاء الاصطناعي وكيف يؤثر على تدقيق المعلومات. تفضل.
That is an area of topic that we're all just getting into. So I'm excited to have that discussion. I have thoughts on it. I haven't established main ideas about it, but happy to discuss that. How to become a part of the International Fact-Checking Network and a signatory to the IFCN Code of Principles. I was saying earlier, in 2016, when we became when the IFCN became the IFCN, when this Code of Principles was out there, 35 organizations came together. My organization was one of those organizations to be one of the first verified signatories. But today we're 159 organizations from 70 countries in 2023. In a short period of time, we've tripled how many organizations come and adhere to a code of principles. Now, I think this is very unique. I really truly believe it is not easy to bring 159 organizations to commit to certain principles and to adhere them throughout their year, and again every year reapply to see if they still meet those principles. That takes a big commitment. And that commitment grows every year. And as this year and as right now, there's 159 organizations from 70 different countries that adhere to these code of principles, that make it a part of their working operations, a part of the work they do to fight the misinformation. I usually like to play this video, but it always messes up it. But the gist of it is the principles, which I'm going to be talking about in a moment. But the IFCN Code of Principles of the International Fact-Checking Network is a series of commitments organizations abide to promote excellence in fact-checking. We truly believe fact-checking can be nonpartisan, transparent, and can be a powerful tool for journalism and holding public figures accountable.
A growing number of fact-checking projects around the world are analyzing claims of...
I'm not gonna play it. The translation is gonna take it. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. I think okay, there it is. My slide's messed up. So I just wanna briefly go through the principles and then I'll end there. And this will conclude my slides, and then we'll come back into the main screen and then we'll do a Q&A. What are the code of principles? We've been talking about it for the last hour and a half. Principle 1, a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. Our organizations, signatories, organizations must have the same standard to their fact checks, and they should not concentrate their fact checking on one side. In order to get your message across, in order to fight some of those harassment or safety issues, by covering, you're actually protecting yourself at the same time. But also you're giving a full picture of the misinformation space that that region is in as well. So a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness is very important. We want our fact-checking organizations to have a well-balanced approach to the work they're doing. This can change on the type of the work you're doing, right? So if you are political fact-checking organization, it's different than if you're verifying and debunking stuff on social media. These are different aspects within fact-checking itself. But all in all, facts need to be presented, and nonpartisanship and fairness is our first principle. The second principle, a commitment to transparency of the sources. As we've been saying throughout this talk, there's a lot of resources there, and when you use those resources, sources to promote the work that you're doing, make sure they're open sources that individuals and experts can access themselves in order to come to the same conclusion or prove you wrong if the time needs. And our last principle is about that very issue. Commitment to the transparency of the sources is something we highly want our organizations to do for the sake of information. So there's good information out there for us to consume. Principle number 3, a commitment to transparency and funding of the organization. You know, this is one of the toughest ones because we are working in regions in the world where it's very hard to disclose some of this information, right? And when we disclose some of this information, it's very difficult to work under those standards. Nevertheless, we expect our organizations to be able to give a bare minimum to understand who these organizations are, how their organizations run. There are waivers to the IFCN Code of Principles of certain aspects of funding of the organization. This has a larger discussion behind it, but there are ways where the IFCN does accommodate some of these ways of transparency. But all in all, the most important thing is to have a front-facing transparency of the organization while we're going through this process. Principle number 4, a commitment to the transparency of your methodology. People should know how you do your work. Just let them know how you do that work. And you might be surprised if you give them a little bit extra at letting them know which types of tools you use, you start to create a community, and that helps the work that you do. So a commitment to transparency of the methodology is very important for us because we want our readers, our audiences to know how we are doing the work we do. Principle number 5, a commitment to open and honesty and corrections. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. Some mistakes could be bigger, some mistakes could be small, but it's important to own up to those mistakes. And this is why we have a corrections policy in our organizations in order to follow certain guidelines when these are happening. So we promote corrections policies for our organizations. Finally, quickly want to go through the process. This is going to be changing in the next few weeks and fully ramped and presented to you in a different format. The information within it is going to be same. Once you apply your application, there's an application fee of $200. This application fee supports the assessor's assessment, which is $350, which we cover the rest of the application fee through grants and contributions that we have allocated in order to help organizations lower some of these costs. There are organizations that cannot provide $200 for an application. This is very understandable at this point. When you are applying, when you are deciding to apply, please reach out to me. We do have ways where we do support application fee processes. The second phase is
فيردي.
Yes.
طبعا كمان بس بحب بشير انه اذا مؤسسات او مبادرات تدقيق معلومات عربيه بدها تقدم للشبكه الدوليه لتدقيق المعلومات IFCN، ممكن يتواصلوا معنا، ممكن نحن نساعدهم كمان بالابلكيشن بروسس، ممكن نساعدهم لنشوف شو النواقص او الاشياء اللي بحاجه لدعم فيها لنقدر نوفر لهم اياها قبل ما يقدموا طلب الابلكيشن، لانه الافضل انه هم يكونوا ملتزمين بكامل المعايير وكامل الشروط قبل التقديم، وهذا ليسرع عملية التقديم. رح نحط لكم بالشات الإيميل اللي ممكن تتواصلوا معنا عبره، وطبعا we will communicate مع فيردي أي شيء بخص أي مؤسسة تدقيق معلومات هي رح تقدم ل IFCN، مؤسسة معلومات عربية طبعا.
Sounds good. We do appreciate that extra hand lift from our friends and partners across the globe in the regional networks. They are there to help you. Sometimes we do have our own webinars. Please take a look on our website as well to follow up with some of those. It could be extra help. We do, from time to time, Saja has brought a few people together who she thought organizations that were ready to become IFCN verified signatories. We do have a closer one-on-one ways that we have established some of those communications, but always feel free to reach out. Sometimes it quite lately has been, there's a lot of things happening. So it does take some time for me to especially reply back, but my team and my team members are there to help guide you across the application process. In the coming months, we'll have more ways that we will be engaging and promoting the code of principles and hoping that we will be working together in some of those aspects as well. Most important thing is to start a conversation. We like to know who these organizations are when they're applying. We want to be able to have that conversation with them as well. Reach out to us. It does go a long way in terms of building a relationship between these organizations, because at the end of the day, we're trying to promote an idea, and promoting an idea is not easy. So the principles, the code of principles, is an idea that we adhere to, and there's 159 organizations that come around that idea from 80 different countries. So it takes a lot of work. Which brings me to the second step of the application. I'm almost done, and then we'll go into a full question and answer mode in the last 15 minutes, and you could ask me harder questions, Sasha. So the second step is the assessment phase. This is the phase where there's a lot of issues for applicants, especially for new applicants. When organizations are not ready before they apply, it could be a direct reject right away. But if the organizations have built some rapport, I usually been favoring working with organizations to help build their next applications. But as the network grows, the time for this on an individual one-day basis has been a little bit difficult. So in the next few months, we're going to be establishing several time periods where we have certain webinars throughout the years in order to support new organizations to apply. So the second assessment, the assessment phase, two challenges there: finding an assessor in your country. If we do have an assessor from the country in the region, it's easy to start up the application. But if that assessor is working on another application, it takes some time. So bear with us. Step 3, you become a verified signatory. All the things that I have explained, the trainings, the communications, the grant opportunities, the communications handbook, the legal issues. These are some of the ways that we promote the work that fact checkers are doing around the world. And hopefully it helps, grow their capabilities, establish strong infrastructures to be able to fight against the misinformation. The work we do is not an easy feat, and we're doing it in multifacets, from research to media literacy programs to analyzing data in different ways, by creating tools, by creating AI. There's new ways that fact-checking organizations are trying to see how AI is affecting misinformation and how AI can be useful to fight against misinformation. We're just still trying to figure that out. I don't have the answers for that. I think it will be one of the questions, but the last 15 minutes, we could have some questions and answers.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي على العرض، فعلا مفيد جدا وكثير في أسئلة، وأنا جربت قدر المستطاع الأشياء اللي عندي عليها إجابات إني أجاوب عليها بالشات. رح أوجه لك هلا الأسئلة اللي كثير يمكن مهم إنه IFCN جاوب عنها لتسهل عملية التقديم. هناك سؤال من زميلنا من اليمن يسأل: لماذا العضوية تقتصر فقط على المؤسسات ولا تضم مدققي المعلومات المستقلين؟ وهو طبعا أمر مختلف عن AFCN. في الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات نحن نقبل عضوية المستقلين. فما يعني لماذا IFCN لا تقبل عضوية المستقلين؟
We're just make one thing clear. We don't have a membership program. We're not an association. We're 159 organizations saying that we adhere to a code of principles. We don't work on the individual level. Why don't we work on the individual level? I think it's more organizational, not capacity, but in order to establish relationships with within organizations, we like to work with registered entities in a sense. We have not had, when we started first on this journey of the fact-checking world, it was several organizations coming together, right? We didn't, at that moment of time, freelance journalism, freelance this was popular, but it was not as vibrant as it is today because of all the tools and resources that we have as individuals to become our own brands, to become our own media in a sense. So the IFCN started as organizations coming together, but never discouraged the individuals of not being a part of the community. That has never happened. I do sense that this is a common understanding that the IFCN does not work with individuals. It only works with organizations. No, we work with a lot of individuals. We've had a lot of individuals develop research that we needed in order to understand certain things. We've We've brought individuals into our steering committees to help promote some of the work that we do. Global Fact, anybody could come to Global Fact as long as we have tickets available. But these conversations are all open to our community. It's not that we work at an organizational level or we have a membership program. It's 159 organizations saying we adhere to these principles coming together. And while they come together, we try to support those operations. In the future, would this be changing? It could be. We are going to revisit the Porter principles and its criteria to make it more accessible for organizations, but also strengthen it to help promote the work we do and protect the work we do at the same time. I hope that answers that question. I know it's not really giving you a straight answer, but there's a lot of resources here, and it's a matter of trying to find those resources, creating those networks.
شكرا فيردي. فيردي، هناك سؤال: إن كنتم تأخذون وضع البلد الأمني والسياسي والإعلامي بعين الاعتبار عند تقييم أي التقديم، يعني مثلا بالعالم العربي أنت تعرف أن هناك خصوصية في بعض الدول خاصة بحرية الرأي والتعبير، خاصة بحماية المصادر، خاصة بحماية فريق العمل، ممكن أن نعمل بشكل حتى anonymously بشكل مجهول من دون إعلان عن أسمائنا. فهل تأخذون بعين الاعتبار وضع كل بلد وخصوصيته عند تقييم تقديم أي مؤسسة؟
Of course. I mean, as I said in the very beginning, I'm a part of the region where we're trying to work from. It's not easy to be a journalist or to be a person who is working in nonprofit in the nonprofit space to get information out there. We do provide certain ways to protect the organizations. When it comes to biographies, it clearly does state on our website that the biographies must be present on the organization's website. But there have been ways that we have been able to develop waivers in order to protect the organization. Understanding the organizational structure is very important. When I say waiver, I mean the information regarding your writers, the information regarding the organizational funding. When these sorts of things do arise, you would have to present a case to the IFCN advisory board members, making them understand why it is important to protect your journals by not sharing the biographies on the website or the funding of the organization. This is a communication line that we do provide. But it is also important for us to promote those best practices as much as we can, so those waivers are not likely given, because we are trying to adhere to the code of principles, but also promote good practice of journalism at the same time. Yes, that is my answer.
جزيلا فردي. هلا بدي اروح على الاسئله المتعلقه بالذكاء الاصطناعي. طبعا نحن لازلنا نكتشف الذكاء الاصطناعي، وبالتالي احيانا كثيره لا يكون لدينا اجابات على الكثير من الاسئله، لازلنا في مرحله الاستكشاف وان نرى كيف سيؤثر الذكاء الاصطناعي على تدقيق المعلومات بشكل عام. ولكن الواضح ان مهنه مدقق المعلومات اصبحت اصعب مع الذكاء الاصطناعي، خاصه مع ديب فيكس وانتشار الكثير من الفيديوهات والصور المضللة، وأحيانا يمكن أن يكون من الصعب أن ندقق هذه الصور والفيديوهات من جهة، ولكن من جهة أخرى الذكاء الاصطناعي يساعد أيضا تدقيق المعلومات. يعني الذكاء الاصطناعي هناك أدوات الآن تعتمد على الذكاء الاصطناعي تساعد في تحديد الادعاءات مثلا قابلة للتحقيق وغيرها. فهيدي الموازنة ما بين الذكاء الاصطناعي الضار لتدقيق المعلومات والذكاء الاصطناعي الجيد لتدقيق المعلومات، كيف يجب أن نتعامل نحن مجتمع مدققي المعلومات مع هذا الأمر؟
I don't know if there was a question in there, but I do feel the same sentiments with you in the sense that, you know, when it first came out, oh, whoa, what's going on? How we're going to handle this? But as you start to use certain tools out there, it could be beneficial to the work that you do. It could help you navigate some of those things, absolutely. But how are you using that AI is very important. Are you using it in your writing? Right? There's like ethical questions there. Are you verifying the information that the AI is providing you before you're publishing it? It's very simple things, but there are many organizations within our network that are dabbling with ways of how AI could promote some of the work that we're doing by connecting lots of misinformation together to help the community at large. Some of those ideas was presented at Global Fact 10. There was a lot of discussions there. You know, Staja, AI is one of those things that have been very distant to me the last few months, but it is a growing conversation in our community. And at Global Fact 10, we've had several sessions dealing how it has affected the information space negatively, as well as how we are looking for ways to figure out how to use AI in a more positive way to fight against misinformation. That's going to take some time, but let's save our breath to answer more questions that I can actually answer. Back to you.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي. طبعا بس بدي نوه لأنه أريج والشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات حاليا تحاول استكشاف دور الذكاء الاصطناعي في عمليات تدقيق المعلومات، وهناك جزء خاص بالموضوع في استراتيجية أريج الذكاء الاصطناعي اللي أعلنا عنها الشهر الماضي وبعد عمل سنة عليها، وموجودة بالتشات، ممكن تلاقوها زملائنا عم بيبعتوها بالتشات. فيردي، هناك سؤال حقيقة طرح في البداية ولكن يبدو أن إجابة يمكن لم تكن كافية للبعض، هو عن موضوع أنه كيف يمكن لمبادرة تدقيق معلومات أن تستمر في العمل من دون تمويل؟
You know, I feel like you're holding me responsible for not funding, and that's not fair. But you know, when we go into this type of world and the work that we do is very, you know, special. It's not something that everybody will get up and do every day. Looking for misinformation, fighting against, and trying to promote, you know, healthy information in our spaces. You know, I think we make a choice that first day to fight on, to scratch and scratch and scratch. When I started my fact-checking organization, yeah, we were lucky to get a grant that supported us for the first 2 years. But before getting the grant, it was months of working at nights, putting those extra hours. It was really something that we worked day in, day out, trying to see if there are opportunities for us to engage in. Fact-checking was not the only way we were able to support our efforts, right? I know maybe in an individual instance, this could be harder. That's why I think working or establishing or trying to develop an organization is a better way of going through this, bringing people together, because it's not easy to do the work that you're doing and creating different avenues. Fact-checking was only one of them. We started our data hub of Turkey. Basically, you could find any statistics of things that we have fact-checked as, you know, adding to the arsenal of fighting against misinformation, right? So creating products and initiatives around your fact-checking initiative to support many different ways. So it's not easy to find funding, absolutely. Sometimes it takes organizations a year or two to really establish themselves, because that's why we look for a 6-month fact-checking period. We want to know your journey, how your fact-checking has changed over the time. It's difficult. I understand that, but it's very it's not easy to go after those funds, and doing it alone, it's not fun. But when you have a group of individuals that are motivated around a cause that you're trying to promote, then you have something rolling. I think creating the networks and the meeting people, establishing those relationships is where you need to start before thinking about, oh my God, I'm not going to have any funding to do this or that. No, just start talking to people first. You'll find the funding as long as you're motivated and you're committed to what you're trying to do. I feel like an inspirational speaker at the moment. It was not my motivation for that at all. But, you know, the work we do does require to be inspired, right? It does require to be inspired. So this is why we come together every year for these events to inspire each other at the global events. And these events are not only in person, they're also virtual. So you'll be able to be a part of those conversations as well.
شكرا جزيلا فيردي بعد عنا دقيقة منهم بدي منك نصيحتك النهائية لمدققي المعلومات في العالم العربي ومؤسسات تدقيق المعلومات في العالم العربي.
Advice to the fact checkers in the Arab world. It's not easy to be a journalist in the Arab world or fact checkers in the Arab world in any way. Just keep on doing the work you do is the first thing I would say. There's a lot of amazing things that you do to unearth a lot of things that people need to know. And it's a place and region that needs a lot more of us to be able to get that information out there. So stay true to that and create those connections. You'll never know when you'll meet these people in your life or how they'll be able to support some of those initiatives that you're going to be going through. So those are my two pieces of advice. Be open to talking to people and be open to yourself and be true to yourself while you're going through this, because it's not easy, especially in our region. It's not easy. So stay strong is what I can say. And we have one more minute for one more, Saja.
لا أنهينا. شكرا كثير فيردي. كل ما قلته يعني لهذا موجودة الشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات، ولهذا موجودة الشبكة الدولية لتدقيق المعلومات IFCN لدعم وتطوير عمل هذه المؤسسات في العالم العربي وفي العالم أجمع. شكرا كثير فيردي، من الجميل إنه تكون معنا. أنا عتبت عند الدنيا وهلا يعني خلص وقت الويبينار كمان. قبل الختام بدي أطلب منكم بس أنكم تعبوا استمارة التقييم اللي عم بيبعتوها بالشات زملائنا. بدي أعيكم طبعا لتتابعونا نحن IFCN على تويتر وإنستغرام للتعرف على نشاطاتنا ومشاريعنا، وبدايكم للتسجيل بويبينارنا المقبل اللي رح يكون تحت عنوان تدقيق المعلومات في إفريقيا، التحديات والفرص، ورح يكون معنا زملائنا من أفريقيا تشيك بالويبينار. شكرا جزيلا لكم وبنلتقيكم الشهر المقبل على خير. شكرا كثير فيردي، وشكرا للمترجمين معنا ولفريق أريج والشبكة العربية لمدققي المعلومات. يعطيكم العافية. باي باي.